Hi readers and happy game day. Today I'm going to be talking about Artemis Fowl, the original book by eoincolfer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and the 2020 movie that's supposed to be based on this book. The purpose of this video is to help you decide if you are a fan of the book, if the movie is actually worth your time. I will be speaking about some minor plot points and characters and world building, that type of stuff. So no major spoilers, but I will be talking about some minor plot points. In case you don't know me, my name is Chris. I do 1-minute book reviews and all sorts of bookish stuff. This is a new type of video for me and a little bit of an experiment, so I hope that you enjoy. First, let me jump in and talk about world building, or the world of Artemis Fowl. It's a small book, so most of the plot, not all, but a majority of the plot takes place in 2 locations. Haven City, which is the central city of the fairies and elves and all of that stuff. It's supposed to be located in the center of the earth, far away from all mankind. And then we have Fowl Manor, the home of Artemis Fowl and his entourage. So we're introduced to Fowl Manor in both the book and the movie first. We don't get a ton of information in the book about the manor house other than a couple little details here and there, and the fact that it's falling into disrepair because Artemis's family has lost all of their money. Now, Artemis in the book, and Fowl Manor in the book, looks perfectly fine. Artemis seems to have unlimited amount of funds. So this is a huge driving force for him in the book, the whole money thing, that is totally different from what's in the movie. But I'll get into that a little bit later. As far as the actual house goes, I did like the overall look and design of Fowl Manor in the movie. We don't get to see like a lot of the house. Obviously, it's a huge house and we don't get to see everything. But it did feel like an old manor house, just not one that was in disrepair like it says it is in the book. So, but I will give the creators a good job, credit for doing a good job on the house. Now, the other main location in Artemis Fowl is Haven City, so the home of the fairies and elves. That I was not a fan of. In the book, Haven is described as a metropolis, a city that's overpopulated and underserviced. So basically like every other major city in the world. And I get that in the world of the book, in the movie, the fairies are supposed to be technologically advanced. But I feel like the movie focused more on the whole technology aspect than they did with the magic aspect. So I think there was a great opportunity here for the creators to do a mashup of both technology and magic, but instead I feel like they just leaned into the technology portion and kind of ignored the whole magic. So that was kind of a disappointment to me because I think they could have done a better job with that. Another thing missing from the movie is actually the whole first chapter of the book, which takes place in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Like, again, a great opportunity to feature a city and a place that's not featured in a lot of other movies and media, but they cut that scene out altogether, so I think, again, that was a missed opportunity. And speaking of missed opportunities, let's talk about some of the characters here. In the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about all of the characters in Artemis Fowl, just the main ones. Starting with our main character himself, Artemis Fowl, the self-proclaimed 12-year-old criminal mastermind. So Artemis's whole thing is that he's supposed to be a genius. He's supposed to be the smartest person in the room. He can outsmart anyone. And yeah, I feel like throughout the book, every action and decision that he makes helps to reinforce that criminal mastermind quality that he's supposed to have. But in the movie, on the other hand, the only thing that he really does on his own is orchestrate a kidnapping. But even then, the reason that he's doing it, the reason he's being motivated to do that is because he got a phone call from an evil fairy who allegedly kidnapped his father. But in the book, everything that Artemis does is completely his own decision. Like, yes, he has his own reasons for doing what he does, but he's not being threatened, he's not being blackmailed. by an evil fairy, his whole motivation, his whole reason for doing the things that he does are completely different in the book than they are in the movie. Like, yes, he has a father. His father is missing. He's presumed dead, but no one kidnapped him, at least not in book 1. The reason that he does the kidnapping in the book is so that he can ransom the person off for gold that he can use to fund the search for his father. Now, every step that he takes in the book is his own. He's not guided by anyone else but himself. So because of this, I feel like in the movie, he comes off as, yes, smart and kind of cheeky, but evil masterminds, like, no. He doesn't do anything that I would even be considered criminal, except for maybe, I guess, the kidnapping. But in the book, Artemis is much more cold, much more calculated, much more manipulative. And I think it's important that to lean into those qualities really hard so that when you do see like a softer side to him, it has more of an emotional impact. So that brings me to, really quick, Artemis's mother, who is an important piece to Artemis's development in the book, so crucial that there's a crucial scene at the end of the book where Artemis makes a decision involving his mother that shows that underneath all his scheming, he's still just a 12-year-old boy. But there is no mother in the movie. We find out in the first 5 minutes that she's dead. WTF. I guess we're supposed to get an emotional connection between Artemis and his father, but that just did not work for me. I mean, Mr. Fowl, Artemis Sr., is also supposed to be a criminal mastermind, and I did not get that vibe at all. So in conclusion, I feel like they took criminal mastermind book Artemis and basically turned him into a misunderstood, lonely, smart little boy. Lame. So now let's jump over to the other main character, who is Captain Holly Short from the LEP Recon unit. Yes, that's LEP Recon, aka Leprechaun. So Book Holly is a young, gung-ho, upstart captain who always thinks that she knows best regardless of the rules. She is the first female officer that Leprechaun has ever had, so that's kind of a big deal, but that does make her ostracized by the rest of her fellow officers. But Holly doesn't care because she marches to the beat of her own drum, and she's a badass. But Movie Holly is basically portrayed as a 12-year-old little girl who is too young and too silly to be respected by her peers. They also gave her this weird backstory with a father who's a supposed traitor, and that's another reason why her peers kind of shun her. But there's no mention of her being the first female officer, no, nothing. So for like a Disney movie that usually leans hard into like the feminism stuff, I feel like that was a missed opportunity here. Why would you take that away from her? Like, Book Holly is cool on her own. She doesn't need a weird backstory. Instead of being this competent, strong officer, she comes off as like just a silly little girl, which is a shame. There's only one scene in the movie where we really get to see Holly shine. It's the troll in Italy, if you're familiar with that scene in the book. But otherwise, other than that one scene, she always has to rely on other people to help her, which in the book, she helps herself constantly all the time. So it's garbage what they did to her, I feel like, in the movie. But I guess they felt they needed to give Holly a backstory with a father so that she had a way to connect with Artemis. Because in the movie now, they both have fathers who are maybe misunderstood and they can bond over that. I won't say what happens between Holly and Artemis in the movie, but I will just say that their whole dynamic is completely different than the way it is in the book. Like, completely different. So, speaking of completely different, let's move on to Root, Commander Root, Holly's superior officer. So, in the book, Root is grumpy, tough, cigar-smoking, this old man. In the movie, he's Dame Judi Dench. So still, grumpy and old, but no cigar smoking. And Root in the movie just doesn't seem as like tough as she does in the book. Like, as a supposed commander, There is a section of the book where Rue and one of his fellow officers, this centaur Foley, actually team up and pull something on Artemis that he isn't expecting. So that proves that Rue is a commander that's worthy of everyone's respect. Like, he was smart enough to outsmart Artemis at least one time. But in the movie, that never happens. So we never really get to see Rue do anything in the movie, except for maybe his decision to send in Mulch. Oh, Mulch. He's a dwarf. He only basically has one brief but very memorable scene in the book. But in the movie, well, in the movie he's played by Josh Gad, so therefore they give him a lot more to do. Like, a lot more. In the book, when Mulch is sent into Fowl Manor, it is unbeknownst to Artemis. He doesn't know anything about Mulch or that Mulch is coming in. But in the movie, Artemis claims that he knew the whole time that they were going to send Mulch in, and it was all part of his plan. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How would you know that the fairies would send in a dwarf instead of like a troll or something else? I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then where Mulch ends up afterward is also quite different. So book Mulch tricks Root and Foley into thinking that he's dead so that he can escape and go off and do his thing. But movie Mulch, he teams up with Artemis and so that they can go after the evil fairy. Again, they make Mulch a way bigger deal, give him much more to do, which is a shame because I feel like everything that they gave to Mulch took away from some other characters as a result. Specifically, the butler siblings. So the main butler is supposed to be Artemis's bodyguard and best friend. But in the movies, he comes off more as Mr. Fowl's best friend because they confided in each other about, all this stuff. And he only saves Artemis's life in the movie, like, once, I think. So there are so many cool scenes of Butler kicking ass in the book. I don't know why you would leave that material out. And then there's Juliet. In the book, Juliet is Butler's younger sister. In the movie, Juliet is Butler's niece. Like, why? Why change that? Juliet is supposed to be her brother's, one soft spot, which really only works if she's his sister. Like, I don't understand why they changed that. Both Butler siblings are supposed to have served the Fowl family for generations. And they're supposed to have all these special skills, like they're super strong and fighting and all this stuff. And we never really get to see any of that in the movie. Like, Juliet in the movie supposedly knows all these cool fighting techniques, but we never get to see her use them. So I don't even know what the point of her was. We barely get to see Juliet, which is a real shame. Book Juliet does spend a lot of her time taking care of Artemis's mother, which, as I already said, Artemis's mother isn't in the movie, so maybe that's why we don't get to see a lot of Juliet. But there's also some really cute scenes between Juliet and Holly that are in the book that were not in the movie. And again, I think that was a real missed opportunity. So, yeah, I am not going to go into depth and talk about any of the villains in the movie because those characters are non-existent in the book. We don't really know much about them, so it's not really worth my time to talk about. So that brings me to the plot. In case you haven't guessed from everything I've already shared, the main plot of the Artemis Fowl movie is completely different from the main plot of the Artemis Fowl book. So again, in the book, Artemis is looking to acquire some fairy gold so that he can use the gold to fund his search for his father, who is missing. In the movie, his father gets kidnapped by an evil fairy, and the fairy tells Artemis he has to find this magical artifact, give it to the fairy so that he can get his father back alive. So yes, both are about finding Artemis's father, but the motivations and everything behind it is completely different. So there are a lot of similar scenes in the book and the movie. Like I mentioned, the troll scene in Italy, there's the kidnapping scene, etc., etc. But the whole context as to why those things happen and the setup and the consequences, they're all very different. I don't know why the filmmakers felt the need to make up this weird, mysterious fairy artifact. Why couldn't they just stick to the whole gold thing? I think that makes more sense. Now, I have not read the entire Artemis Fowl series, but I could not find any reference to a fairy artifact throughout the series. If you have heard something different, please let me know. Again, the whole climax at Fowl Manor is resolved totally differently than it was in the movie versus the book. I guess the movie felt the need for there to be this like clear villain to defeat instead of just Artemis versus the elves, but I don't think that's true at all. I think that there's enough material in this book to create like a cute, fun, fairy gold heist movie. I think that's the route they should have went. So, in conclusion, I feel like the filmmakers did not actually read the book. I think they probably just read the Wikipedia page for this book, maybe the second this book, and pulled out their favorite pieces and put them together to make a movie. So, if you are a fan of the Artemis Fowl book, I do not think that the movie is worth your time. Again, it's Wikipedia page only. So, and that's my evaluation of the Artemis Fowl movie versus the book. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know. And I would really appreciate any other feedback that you would wish to share. So, do you like these type of videos? Is there anything I left out? Is there anything you'd like to see me do differently? Or any other bookish/movie mashup that you'd like to see me do next? If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I release new videos every Sunday, every Wednesday, and sometimes on Friday. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Happy reading.